XRP's kind of core product just has not seen meaningful traction with institutions. Whereas what I see with Chainlink is the exact opposite. I see a meaningful growing acceleration in usage. So it's just these kind of massive disconnect. And then, along the way, you have these fun debates about people thinking XRP is cheaper than Link because the price is lower, because they don't understand market cap, and all those fun Twitter debates.
Welcome back to the Rollup. We are your hosts. I'm Andy.
I'm Robbie, and this is your home to learn from the biggest guests, the brightest minds at the tip of innovation.
Our goal is to help spread the collective knowledge of everyone in our community.
We are breaking crypto out of its echo chamber and taking it to the real world.
Introducing Extended exclusively on Starknet, a next-gen perp trading platform live today. With 50 plus trading pairs from crypto to TradFi, you get the best experience on chain today. Deposit in the community vault for attractive returns, EMV compatible, and engage in unified margin, spot trading, lending, and perps trading. Exclusively live at extended.app on Starknet today.
I got to start. XRP Army versus Chainlink Marines. Zach, I've been putting out these tweets that have been saying that this is a battle, that Link's going to flip XRP. They've been going viral. You've been fired up on them. Maybe give us your side of the story, man. How did this beef start? It's been going on for years. You're talking about NDAs that these guys have been, hush-hushing, breadcrumbs, trying to put together the best rumors possible on the XRP Army side. But you seem to be, very sure that Chainlink is the one that is actually kind of making this happen. How did this start? Give us the story here and give us your side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, this debate goes back to, at least from what I remember, 2019, so like kind of early days when I really got into crypto Twitter. But what it comes down to ultimately is just who is the best position to benefit from the institutional adoption of blockchains. For at least, since Ripple was a thing, that was always XRP's narrative, that XRP would be the one to benefit. They're the one to work with the banks. There's all these NDAs. It's all hidden behind the scenes. But when it happens, you better be ready. It's going to happen. I've been hearing that stories along those lines for at least 7 years, personally. That the banks are right around the corner. They're just about to adopt it, and that whole time, these past 7 years, Chainlink has actually been working with institutions, and not in there's a PDF from 10 years ago that mentions Chainlink, or it's all NDA, so I can't talk about it. But it's like Swift comes out and says, hey, we're using Chainlink for this. JP Morgan comes out and says, hey, we're using Chainlink for this. And UBS and SBI and all these entities have said very publicly about how they're using the Chainlink tech stack. And then at the same time, I see the overall narrative, specifically with kind of normie investors, is still XRP is going to be the winner. So to me, there's this huge disconnect between what the narrative has been for 10 years, which is XRP is going to win all the banks, to what I actually see in reality, which is that XRP's kind of core product just has not seen meaningful traction with institutions. Whereas what I see with Chainlink is the exact opposite. I see a meaningful growing acceleration in usage. So it's just these kind of massive disconnect. And then, along the way, you have these fun debates about people thinking XRP is cheaper than Link because the price is lower, because they don't understand market cap, and all those fun Twitter debates. But ultimately, it just comes down to if institutions come on chain, which is exactly what we're seeing now, it's pretty evident, who's going to benefit. And I think Chainlink is just the clear winner in that regard.
To be fair, the lawsuit against XRP must have slowed them down significantly and probably stopped them in their tracks, right? So do you think that, they're way behind now? A lot of these other, Chainlink was able to go and acquire all of these relationships. Do they have any sort of momentum now that lawsuit has been put to rest? Are you starting to see more signs of life? They're still light years behind some of the relationships that you guys have gotten, but are you thinking about them as a competitor? How do you see similar projects in the space, other oracles, other teams like this?
Yeah, so I wouldn't discount that the lawsuit, it didn't help them at all. I'll say at this point, they can no longer use that as a shield or an excuse for whether or not used.
Right.
But the U.S. regulators during the previous administration went against a lot of projects. They went hard against Ethereum, and Ethereum has come out even stronger. They were growing in adoption during that time. So I can't say you can't really pin it on that reason alone, in my opinion. But from a technology perspective, Chainlink and XRP are two very different things. XRP is a blockchain. They're about cross-border payments and this XRP bridge currency. Chainlink is much more about connectivity. What do tokenized assets need? What do smart contract applications need? They need data, and they need cross-chain and privacy and compliance and all these services that Chainlink provides. So really, from like a technical perspective, they're actually very complementary. Ripple uses Chainlink's data feeds for their stablecoin, their RLUSD stablecoin. That's why it's listed on Aave. It's because they have a Chainlink price feed. So like from a technical perspective, they are complementary in that regard. But in my mind, when I think about how the landscape's going to evolve, is that there's going to be thousands of blockchains, and there's going to be even more tokenized assets and digital assets that institutions want to trade. In order for the XRP thesis to really play out as they think it will, institutions either need to adopt the XRP ledger as their blockchain, that's a pretty big bet that they're not going to go with any other blockchain or use their own ledger, or they're going to use XRP as like this bridge asset in their digital asset transactions, which I personally just have not seen that traction take off. Whereas when I look at Chainlink, the thesis I see is more, are institutions going to adopt blockchains? If yes, they're going to need Chainlink services. It does not matter if it's Ethereum or Solana or Connexus by JP Morgan, some permission chain. They're going to need data, cross-chain compliance, connection to Swift, all this. And regardless of what asset they want to use in those transactions, whether it's stable coins or CBDCs or tokenized funds or like Bitcoin or something, you're still going to need Chainlink services. If you want a lending market, you need to price the collateral. If you want perps, you need to be able to price those trades. No matter what kind of asset or blockchain that's being used in an institutional context, you're still going to need Chainlink, whereas XRP is a much more specific bet that they're going to adopt their tech stack and their ledger and their asset, which I just find that to be personally unlikely and just much more riskier of a play. So when I look at like other players in the space, like there's specific entities and they do price feeds, and there's entities and they do cross-chain or they do compliance. They typically do one of those things. Chainlink's the only one that I've seen that is doing all of these different verticals all within one platform. So I don't see any one-for-one competitor to Chainlink. Basically anything in the space can work with Chainlink, which is why there's thousands of integrations and users of Chainlink. But I assume at some point there'll be a competitor in the same way that Google and Microsoft compete, because they both have this giant tech platform that spans the entire Web 2. We'll see something like that in Web 3.